Welcome back, everyone. It is your host, Paul Clement, here at the Last Call Fantasy Football Podcast, here on April 27th, Monday, after the NFL draft has concluded. And what an event it was. We are here to break down all of the surprises, awe moments, and everything in between when it comes to this NFL draft. But before we get into that, I am so excited to be here with my co-host Bobby Briscoe. Bobby, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, doing good. Happy to be talking some football on a Monday.
I spent the entire weekend with you, Bobby, and I feel like I kept on bringing up the NFL draft at inopportune moments, and you're just like, Paul, we're here playing Dungeons and Dragons. Would you knock it off, please? And
Save it for the podcast. Save it for the
save
podcast.
it for the podcast. And we're also joined by a special guest. We've had him on before, but we're happy to have him back tonight. Eric Inward, how are we doing tonight?
Boys, I'm doing well. I'm enjoying a beautiful day here in Ottawa. It's 21 degrees. I went out for a quick round this morning.
Nice.
Had a nice little time outside with the kids out when they got home from school. And now I'm going to talk some football. It's a great day.
Oh, hell yeah.
What course did you play by chance?
Played Irish Hills. It is it's not going to host the Canadian Open anytime soon, but it's the closest course to me. And it's incredibly cost effective. So I enjoy going there as much as I can. Yeah.
You have to offset some more expensive rounds later this year. So
That's right.
yeah, no, we were just talking this weekend as well. Like we need to get out. I tried to knock some rust off at the simulator on Eric Watchman's birthday, but man, I have a long way to get back to where I need to be. Anyway,
this is my first time swinging since September. I was awful, and I don't really care because it was my first time. I'll get out at least one more time this week, and then hopefully like twice a week for the next little bit, and probably in a month or so I'll be swinging well again.
perfect. That's what I like to hear, man. So for everybody that's joining us on our episode today, we are going to be going through some of the NFL draft overarching themes. Like, what have we noticed that has happened in this draft specifically that might be signaling for the NFL? Kind of like some, I guess, overarching landing spots and whether they make sense. Like, how does this all shake out in the fantasy world? And specifically, we're going to be looking at our favorite landing spots for the fantasy relevant positions, and we're going to be looking at our least favorite landing spots. So with all that said, let's get into it. Let's get it cracking. Cheers, everybody. Okay, so before we get into all that, we have our mandatory beer check. Bobby, what's the brew tonight?
This is one that we picked up over the weekend here. We kind of referred to it already, but in Ottawa over the weekend, hit up some nice beer spots. This is from Spark, nice little place in downtown Ottawa. Pizza and beer, and this is their How About Italy Italian style Pilsner. Very good, very delightful.
Oh, you were in Ottawa this weekend? You didn't say anything to me?
There's no way I would have had time to come and see you. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
I wanted to.
I would have come to see you. I would have come to hang out with you guys.
Next time.
Next time. You guys are doing your Dungeons and Dragons weekend. I'm not gonna
Well, no. So we had Bobby's suit fitting for his wedding coming up in the fall.
Oh, congratulations, Bobby.
Thank you.
And then we threw in some Dungeons and Dragons in the meantime as well.
Little Dragons, because we can't get together and not do that. So
Yeah,
of course.
Eric, I understand that you are beerless. We did give you enough warning, apparently.
I completely forgot. I completely forgot that this is a crack a beer fantasy podcast. I think this is my second time in a row forgetting that that's what this is.
Third time's
next time I will come prepared. I apologize.
Third time's the charm. Third time.
Yeah.
I'm doing a juicy ass from the Flying Monkey craft brewery, and it is a full-bodied IPA. So only gonna have one of these and then go to bed, I think, tonight. So let's Inward, we only have you for a little bit of time here tonight. So let's I just want to ask, what are your how much of the draft did you take in? Did you have any favorite moments? Like, what got you excited in the fantasy world when these picks were flying off the board?
Um, I I mean, this year, like the landing spots, I think for like all of the fantasy relevant positions were like pretty poor compared to like previous years. Um, but you say that, and then like things change, right? Like every year, how many times in previous years had you been excited for a landing spot, and then like something doesn't work out, either the player's not very good or the team isn't as good as you think it is, right? And it's like the less heralded spots, the less heralded players end up like performing really well, right? Like last year, right? Did anyone think that like Harold Fannin going to the Browns in like the fourth round was like the best rookie tight end landing spot? No, right? But like Fannin is a dog, and he had a great year. Um, on the flip side, right? Like when like Adunze went whatever it was like sixth overall to Chicago the year prior,
10th.
people were expecting
But yeah.
like a banger year from the guy, and he had a terrible rookie year, right? And he was significantly better last year till he got hurt. So like people's like thoughts on these things like right after the draft don't necessarily hold like that position later into the year. Um, the
It
big
is,
one, the
if I
big
could,
one is go ahead.
yeah, just to kind of vibe off of that, it is a roller coaster, right? We told ourselves all year long this was going to be a down draft. We shouldn't expect much from these skilled players, shouldn't expect much in the way of the quarterback room, shouldn't expect much from anything. And then as we get closer and closer to the draft, we get super excited. We start giving ourselves reasons to get excited for Jordan Tyson's, oh, he's finally healthy, and teams are getting all hyped up about him. And he ends up landing in New Orleans with Chris Olave, right? So the roller coaster never ceases, and it is like they say, the NFL is the not for long league. Things change very
Mhm.
quickly, and to your point, Rome Odunze, drafted 10th overall in his year, like was a very good wide receiver prospect, is now finding himself in still. I mean, I know they traded DJ Moore, but still a crowded pass catching group there with Colson Loveland and Luther Burden, who a lot of people seem high on. So it's things change so quickly in the NFL.
Mhm. Yeah, I think right, the big one that everyone had been like waiting for was where Jeremiah Love would go, right? And he went like top 5 like as predicted, but like I mean top 5 landing spots, like none of them were really like that great. But are top 5 landing spots like ever good for any skill position players because like they're in the top 5 because like, those teams suck. Um but, like it's kind of it makes them spending all that money on Algier seem like a waste and like foolish. When you because you've already got we signed Connor right as a veteran presence, but you've also got like Trey Benson who they played a lot last year, right? So I mean, obviously I don't like have him; he's a rookie, right? And that was pretty disappointing, right? Like, is he going to have a good career? Like everyone says he is, but could his landing spot have been better? Sure. And the guy right after him, like Carnell Tate, I think that was a banging landing spot for him, right? Like the number 1 overall pick from the year prior, drafting the top receiver this year, right? Like, what more do you want? Like that's a great landing spot for a receiver.
He might be the only one that escaped into a
Yeah.
decent landing spot, right? Like I had him as
Yeah.
my wide receiver one going into this draft, and he's the only one that really lands in a clean landing spot where he can probably become and emerge the wide receiver one of that group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the rest were all it seems muddied now, but once again, in like week 10, you're going to be like, oh, of course that was a great landing spot. You know what I mean? Like for a handful of them. So it still
Well,
remains to be seen which one of those will actually run away from the pack.
well, let me ask you this because Mekhi Lemon, we've talked about this guy in the past. He could have been some team's wide receiver one in this draft, and he ends up going to the Philadelphia Eagles, where you look around and you say, wow, this is a pretty crowded room. But I think all of us here understand that this could drastically change in the next couple months once a potential A.J. Brown trade goes down or an injury happens or XYZ. So uh, I guess do you knock Mekhi Lemon at all? Do you think he's a compliment, or is he going to be more of a featured guy in that offense once AJ Brown is gone between him and Devontae Smith.
Dude, did you see? Have you like watched Makai Lemon's like highlight tapes?
Yeah.
Dude, he's awesome. Like he is fantastic. I was surprised he slipped to 20 with so many needy wide receiver teams between like Tyson's pick and his pick, right? Like the Dolphins, who did they took
They took
like
a tackle.
alignment, yeah, and who's their top receiver? Like Malik Washington. Like, you pay all this money to a quarterback and Malik Willis, and you don't even give him a receiver. Insane, right?
They took some receivers later, but I agree. Like they didn't invest heavily into the position.
No one of the caliber of
No.
11, for
So
sure.
they're definitely going to be dipping into like free agency to get their number one guy, whether it's Diggs or
I just saw Juwan
Juwan-
Jennings.
Dewan Jennings. Oh, did he just sign with them?
No, but he's been linked pretty heavily.
Yeah, so like they're going to sign one of those veteran guys to be the number one. But yeah, I mean, Philly's known as like a running team, but they're a great team, right? So a really good team drafting a receiver in the first round, especially someone with like crazy highlight tapes like Makai Lemon, right? Whether it seems like he's blocked to getting targets, right? Like I just said, it might seem muddied now, but I mean, they just spent a first round pick on this guy. He looks awesome in college. Like he is going to be a part of the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't block raw talent, and that's kind of just the end of it, right? Because someone who has that capability is going to find their way to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I think him and Devontae Smith do complement each other pretty well. Makai Lemon, more of a zone beater. Devontae Smith can do it all as that potential wide receiver one in that group. But yeah, it could be a 1A, 1B situation pretty quickly, especially if they're trying to not force, but convince Jalen Hurts that it is okay to throw across the middle of the field.
Well, now he's got no excuse.
No excuse now. That's right. I mean, between Makai Lemon and Eli Stowers going there in the second round, I do like what the Eagles have done with that passing group, with the assumption that AJ Brown is on his way out.
He's definitely gone. He's definitely gone.
Everyone keeps saying that, and then I just have to temper myself. Hopefully, he does make his way over to the New England Patriots. They're my squad, but I have to temper myself, and it could be a completely different team, and we could all be surprised on June 1st. I'm not the one that's going to go put a stamp in like black ink on this just yet, because things change way too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get into it while we have you here, Eric. Why don't you tell me your favorite wide receiver landing spot from the group that came out this year?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's definitely Carnell Tate, right? Like anytime. Okay, I made a mistake many years ago in fantasy, right? You guys remember when Jamar Chase was in his rookie year, and in the preseason he kept dropping all these balls, and people were like, "Oh, the guy can't catch. The guy can't catch." He was also coming off not playing in his last college season because of COVID. I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
So he went to the draft, hadn't played in the year prior, got picked at 5, couldn't catch a fucking thing in training camp and preseason. And I had like in our keeper league, I had like the 4th or 5th spot. And I didn't take him. And the guy right after me, Kurt, did. And immediately Chase was awesome, right? And upon some reflection, I was like, you just like let this guy go, right? But look at how the team was constructed. A year prior, first overall draft pick in Joe Burrow. Like, so they're going to be building everything around the offense, and they invested in this receiver in the top 5 to like further enhance the value of that first overall pick in Joe and the broader team as a whole. And this is the exact same scenario happening here. First overall pick with Cam Ward, and then the next year a top 5 pick in the top receiver in the draft, Carnell Tate. Doesn't matter what people are saying, who's the number one, like Lemon or Tyson or Tate. The Titans believed it was Tate, so like it is going to be Tate, and he is going to be like paired with this guy for the next like 10 years. Like this guy's going to be like a star, and so I'm thrilled to draft him in my keeper league, assuming Jeff takes Love.
Okay,
and we'll see what happens in the dynasty league.
Absolutely, man. It is a great landing spot. I think he fits really well with Cam Ward's game. Alec Iamaner, I think I'm saying his name right.
Alec Iamaner, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so he was fine to start the season, but he doesn't have the separation ability that a Cardinal Tate does. Kimre DK works kind of the middle of the field, your speed guy out of the slot. With Cardinal Tate, you really do have a receiver you can put on the boundary, win on the boundary, and he does really well in those intermediate routes, the dig routes, the posts. He can win on all levels of the field, I'm convinced. And you can let the other guys find their slot, but I think you're right. They take this guy this high, he's going to end up being the one. And a lot of people comped him to, oh my gosh, the Calvin Ridley. A lot of people kind of comped him to him. So it could be a good receiver group there, especially with a mentor that could help just give him some pointers, even though I'm sure he's going to eclipse Calvin Ridley fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything to add, Bobby?
No, I think everything's been said there. I do like that you guys stressed, the draft capital input, right? And like that's something to think about with all of these guys that we're going to talk about today is these teams took them where they took them because they have an idea for this player and they have a use in mind for this player, and don't underestimate that. We can get into the weeds of, oh, we would prefer this landing spot to this landing spot, but these teams took these players and they're going to use them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's get to your running back. Your favorite running back landing spot, Eric.
Jeez. There's only like 5 or 6 running backs taken in the whole draft, right?
Yeah.
I guess I got to go Jadarian Price then.
Okay.
Like, I haven't done like a full like in-depth dive of like the last part of I just know because he went in the first.
Yep.
But Super Bowl champion, like starting running back, signed to the Chiefs, other running back, torn ACL, out for most of the year. Massive hole, drafted the number 2 running back in the class in the first round. Yeah, I mean that what a great landing spot for him. Is he gonna score more than Jeremiah Love? Right? Like, I don't know. He's got significantly less competition on a much better team, right? So like, could this guy score like 15 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns? 15 seems very lofty, but like maybe 10 touchdowns, right? Maybe like 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like, that's a great draft pick at the back end of the first round.
Yeah, I like him as almost a comp to Kenneth Walker. So they're almost replacing like with like. I think Kenneth Walker had a bit more of the big play, like boomer bust mentality. Jadarian Price, he's not as boomer bust, but he's certainly consistent between the tackles. He's almost like a blend of the Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, if I had to kind of figure out his game. So, like you said, opportunity is there. My question would be production and talent, and if he does get goal line work, that's going to certainly be in his favor. But I didn't have him going in the first round. I maybe wouldn't have had him going in the second round. And this is going to be a theme that Bobby and I will get into once we have you off the call here, Eric. But it's like the NFL in general was super down on all these running backs this year, and it's almost because the Seahawks. It's almost because the Seahawks like painted themselves into a corner. They did not get a running back in free agency. They had a small running back room to begin with I think it was like George Hulami and whoever else they had there to go along with Zach Charbonnet.
The guy from Green Bay they signed.
Right.
Emmanuel Wilson.
That's right. So I think I don't want to say that their general manager was kind of feeling himself, but he's like, well, everything else is looking pretty good, so let's just take the running back at 32. Yeah. So that's all right. So you and I share the same one. I really do like running back Jadarian Price to the Seattle Seahawks. The fit is just there when there's not that many fits to pick from, and if we're being honest, you and I quickly messaged each other saying, "Wow, I hate that spot for Love." You're gonna go with the next one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this is a pick to be careful with. If you're looking at, a dynasty startup or a rookie draft in your dynasty league, there's still so many question marks about this as a long-term kind of thing. So this would be the kind of player that, if I'm in a redraft league and I'm watching the waiver wire or maybe trying to take a shot in a later round for a running back, then could be a really high upside for you. But I don't know that this is a long-term necessarily going to see a lot of production out of Price in Seattle type of thing if you're, buying it in a dynasty.
Yeah.
dynasty area.
Running back is so tricky, right? Like it almost feels like every year there's always someone saying this guy's generational, this guy's generational, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to one of our my league mates in our other league, Jeff, who's got the first overall pick, and we had discussed potentially trading for the first overall pick for Jeremiah Love. He threw out the word generational again, right? But like last year we were hearing generational about Ashton Genty and like what a trash first year he had, right? And so is that what generational running backs like do these days? So you take a running back high in the real draft, right? People think he's great. They take him in the fantasy league, and then like what does he do in his first year, right? And so second year, like probably the number one like predictor for like second year like success is like first year performance, right? And so you're looking at now this guy who was billed as a generational back, right? He's in his second year. He did not play that well in his first year, right? Like what happens like to his stock? Now the same thing's going to happen to Jeremiah Love, right? So yeah, I agree with you, right? Like a first round pick is a lot of capital, right, for a running back for a team like that, right? But we know Zach Charbonnet is like competent, like a good player, and he is there, right? So he's coming back at some point, whether it's this year or next year, right? Going to eat into whatever Jadarian Price is doing, and you find these guys who later in drafts who perform like for teams, right? Like if we're looking at this, just the Seahawks example, right? Like Chris Carson many years ago was like a sixth round pick and had chewed out a couple great seasons of like 800 to 1,000 yards of like physical like bully running, right? And bully running. And so who's to say this Holani or Emmanuel Wilson can't do something like that in this, or a sixth round pick next year for Seattle can't, right? And so it's so tricky to like invest, drafting positions in highly drafted running backs who end up not playing well because they're on bad teams, or on not so high drafted, but because they're not so high drafted, there's also like the risk of other players coming in and eating into like their slice of the pie too, right? So I don't know. I find running back incredibly tricky to like predict and manage.
So there's so many different ways we could take the conversation when it comes to Jeremiah Love. The fact that they took a running back so high, we just saw this with Saquon Barkley going to the Giants at number 2. We just saw this with Ashton Genty going to the Raiders. Running back, I think, is one of the most dependent positions on the environment that they're going to, above like anything else. Like you can be as talented as Ashton Genty, but if you're getting tackled 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, that's not on you. That is on the environment that you are in. And certainly I hope that they fix that for him. I do feel pretty good about Ashton Genty this year. Again, there's so many different things that factor into taking a running back in the first round, like the pay grade, the natural environment that they have to find themselves in. How much difference do they actually bring to the team at that spot? Like the Arizona Cardinals were a favorite to take Mauanoa for forever because they don't have a right tackle, which is part of the environment you need to have a successful run game in the first place. So I don't know what the long-term answer would have been there. If I were them, I probably would have taken the tackle or some sort of help. Like Bobby, we talked about this. There's many ways you can help your quarterback, many ways you can help your offense. Running back is like the cherry on top, at least in a lot of people's minds. Now, can Jeremiah Love contribute in year one? Yes, and stats tell us that, generally speaking, first-round running backs, especially highly drafted first-round running backs, will be a top 12 running back within their first 3 years in the league. So I think, even last year with Ashton Genty being as quote-unquote bad as he was.
12 is such a low barrier though, right? Like you're taking a running back third overall to have him hit 12th in his third year in the league. That's a failure. That's not good. Right.
But this is another part of the conversation we've had, like Bobby and I have had. I'm not sure if you've watched all of our episodes, Eric, but I feel like the league has kind of flipped where there were so many good running backs that you would take in the first round of a dynasty draft or a redraft at all. Like the first couple of picks were all running backs. When we first started at our league 15, 17 years ago, whatever it was, like the first 10 picks were running backs or something. At least 10 out of the 12 were. And then over the course of time, it's like the league shifted to passing. So we all followed the trends, and we were all drafting wide receivers. You need 3 good wide receivers on your dynasty team or your fantasy team if you're going to try and be successful. And now I feel like the league's shifting back to running and rushing, and the problem is there aren't enough good running backs. So, yeah, for a fantasy football manager, I personally would take a Jeremiah Love in redraft or dynasty or whatever, because they're just so hard to come by.
It's worth the shot that you'll stumble into one of the ones that will win you a league, right? And like taking that gamble or flipping that coin is worth it on the chance that it comes the way that you want it to land, right? I will say, if you're looking at making those gambles, then that's why I do still love Jeremiah Love, and the landing spots almost doesn't matter. Saquon Barkley, I think, is a great example of this. You know, for years, kind of toiled away in New York with, you know, good results, but not as good as we all thought he was capable of, and then gets traded to the Eagles, and next thing you know, blows up, right, for a league-winning type season. So the talent can eventually shine through, even if a player finds himself in a bad situation and, you know, toiling away in a bad situation for years. In a dynasty's perspective, you have the ability to just continue to rebet, right, and hope that it works out at some point for you.
Mm-hmm. So he finished as... So sorry, I should give some context. Saquon Barkley in his first 2 seasons finishes the RB1 and the RB10 on the Giants. And Jeremiah Love, I think all 3 of us are unanimous in saying that we hate the landing spot for Jeremiah Love, because his ceiling, I do believe, is going to be capped by environment, offensive line, the fact that Tyler Algier literally just did this to Bijan Robinson for a couple seasons now, where he's coming in and vulturing those touchdowns. That's certainly going to be a thing. I'm just saying, I guess there is still possibility and opportunity for, even though we all hate the landing spot, he's still the 101 in dynasty drafts, I think. Not dynasty startups, but rookie picks and rookie drafts.
Dynasty rookie drafts, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can take Carnell Tate over him, and I don't think you can take Mendoza over him, right? And so it's, yeah, I mean, you're almost lucky. I mean, like, yeah, you kind of have to take him if you're the 101, no matter how you feel about it, and like you're like very happy to have the 102, so you don't have to worry about that. You can just take, you know, the quarterback, Mendoza or Tate.
Yeah. I love how this started with a conversation about Jadarian Price. So my one follow-up question to Jadarian Price is, do you think him getting drafted this high is going to affect his rookie draft status? Like, I was taking him kind of back end of the first round. Is he going to find his way up into the middle part of a rookie draft now for the first round?
I think so. Right. He got, like, to my point earlier, right? He got drafted to the Super Bowl champs without a, you know, strong running back who's healthy this year. Right. So if he comes out and plays, you know, like a bomb and, you know, 100 yards, couple catches, a touchdown every single game, or even not even like 100 combined yards, even less than that, then, you know, the Seahawks have made their point and said that this guy's our running back of the future by taking him in the first, right? They're hoping he's that, right? They don't hope he's a rotational guy, right? So to your point, Bobby, earlier about draft capital and, you know, everything the teams are telling us, that's what they're telling us, right? So they're going to give him every opportunity possible to like prove that. And so,
that puts him in the middle of the first round in a rookie draft.
First round, yeah.
So okay. I'm looking at Fantasy Pros right now, and their consensus of 31 experts rankings. They have him ranked 6th currently, average of 6th. Highest ranking 3rd, lowest ranking of 9th.
Like in a rookie draft scenario.
In a rookie draft, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So right in the middle of the first round, basically.
Okay, interesting. Okay, did you want to talk tight ends, Eric, or do you want to talk about least favorite landing spots for some of these guys?
Dude, I just know that Sadiq went to the Jets, and the Jets suck. I don't know these other guys you mentioned. Stowers, I'd heard his name, like no idea what the guy's like or like where he got drafted to. So I'm gonna pass on the tight ends.
Sure. So in terms of least favorite landing spots, we have lots of options when it comes to that. Where would you like to start?
So I talked about Love already, but you know, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole again. other running backs. Emmett Johnson. Who did that guy get drafted to? One of them was bad. The other guys, like no, he went to Kansas City. That wasn't a bad one. There was another.
There's other two that were kind of a pain in my butt. So Jonah Coleman went in the 4th round to Denver, and Mike Washington, the big speedster, went in the 4th round to Las Vegas.
Okay, that was the bad one I was thinking of. Yeah, like a guy who's apparently like a big size speed freak gets drafted to a team where they took a running back like in the top 10 last year. That guy's Las Vegas told us like what they want their team to be, what they want Genty to be. They're going to give him every opportunity. Although actually no, Las Vegas is a new coaching staff, right? So we don't know how Kubiak feels about Genty, right?
He has come out.
He doesn't like him at all.
He's come out and said he wants a committee. So
he said that.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this before, but the fact that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet literally were 50-50 in terms of workload in Seattle, and I think they were only half a point or 2 points away from each other in terms of fantasy points generated during the regular season. Like, I don't think it's going to be that kind of scenario because they do have Ashton Genty, which is a better prospect. He's getting the investment compared to a Mike Washington, but any upside case for Mike Washington is basically evaporated.
Okay. On the receiver front, the two receivers going to Cleveland like sucks, right? Like Cleveland doesn't have a good quarterback, right? I don't think Shedeur is very good. Right, Fannin was awesome because he's great and he plays so close to the line of scrimmage that like anyone can throw him the ball. And then you get like two top 7, top 6 wide receiver prospects going to the same team and competing with Fannin, competing with Judy, competing with the 2 great running backs they drafted last year. So they have a lot of talent, but like they do not have a quarterback to like provide the ball to these players. So that was pretty disappointing. I know a lot of people were saying that Casey Conception might be like the number 2 wide receiver in this class, and so you kind of wanted more from him. At least I did. Like him going to Miami would have been awesome, right? Him going to,
Buffalo,
Pittsburgh, great. Buffalo, even, right? Yeah. So that was pretty disappointing. Then once again, like I just know like the first round ish guys. Like I don't know the guys who are going in like the 4th round or 5th round.
I'll just jump in on Conception a little bit here. I'm still fairly high on him just because Cleveland took him with the draft capital that they used on him. So that tells me of the 2 that I should still have an amount of faith in Conception. And I'm disappointed by Boston, especially because I thought highly of him as a prospect. And I really hate that landing spot with being the 2nd wide receiver to go to a team.
Omar Cooper going to the Jets also sucks, right? That's another guy who people were saying was like Debo light, and like the Jets are like just as bad as the Browns, and they've got Garrett Wilson, right? They've got now Sadiq and the Mason Taylor, right? But who's their quarterback? Like Geno Smith, right? So yeah, maybe he might have a decent little bit this year, but he was terrible last year, so maybe he rebounds to league average. But then he's also like in his mid-30s, right? Like they need an answer at QB.
Yeah, to go back to your Casey Concepcion, gentlemen, it was interesting to see his reaction because I think these wide receivers all knew that one of them was going to get drafted to the Cleveland Browns, and to watch him, like you saw like they had the camera on him when his name was getting called. He's on the phone, and he's just like listening, and you could see his like. He was excited and happy to be being drafted, but his brain was also like trying to generate dopamine at the same time. Like his smile kind of slowly grew. He's like selling himself. Okay, I'm going to be the man in Cleveland. It's going to be my team. But I agree with all those things, guys. Like the lack of a quarterback this season, certainly a pain in the ass. The competition now there with Denzel Boston. Like I was really high on Denzel Boston all draft season, and then for him to land there, it's like they're going to cannibalize each other's opportunities. Like both of these guys were potential 1st round talents in some people's eyes. Concepcion gets the draft capital. Denzel Boston goes early day 2, and it's just it's unfortunate because there's just so much stacked up against them in terms of lack of quarterback play. This team didn't have 5 offensive linemen signed on the roster before the free agency period, so they've tried to backfill that as best as they could. They draft the left tackle Fano in the 9th overall, and it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a run-heavy game this season. You just give the ball to your running backs and just try to get through this season, more or less in one piece, so you can draft a quarterback next year, ideally. But I agree with everything you guys just said. It is, as much as the opportunity and the talent might be there, it's going to be hard to visualize that being maximized this season. So you do have to project forward, I think.
Definitely long game scenarios with these players.
Yeah. Any other landing spots that you did not like, Eric, before we get you out of here so you can get on your next call?
Nothing else I can think of.
Okay.
Like if I'm scrolling through the draft now, like the results, this Jeremy Bernard guy to like Pittsburgh also sucks, right? So it seems like this year we had a lot of teams like the Jets, the Browns, the Steelers, who have historically just played, bully ball, like running, and they drafted like highly touted receivers, like just destroying that for all the fantasy fans. Like, let these guys go to good places. Like, why you gotta mess up my fantasy league, right?
That's why I was so excited for Denzel Boston and Concepcion, because if the Browns hadn't traded down, or if Denzel Boston had been taken in the first round by a better team, like, they had the potential to land in good spots, and it just didn't work out that way. So yeah, I like your call out about Omar Cooper, because it's a crowded situation, right? Like Garrett Wilson being there. They draft Kenyon Sadiq at the 16 spot. They have Breece Hall, who they like to dump the ball off to. A.D. Mitchell, for whatever you think he is, he had a couple good games last year. So there is competition in New York. And I hope they don't get too good too fast, because they still need to answer that quarterback question, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, I got to drop. I got a Little League coaches meeting, and great chatting, boys. And I'll see you in the draft.
Yes.
Maybe this week.
Much appreciated, man. Good luck with the T-ball season. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, Bobby, great to see you again. Paul,
great to see you.
Boys.
Later, buddy. All right. Excellent.
Can we take a break at this point?
Yeah, no, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's gather ourselves, because we kind of jumped around a lot there. So we'll be right back, folks. Give us a minute. All right, everybody, we are back, and we are going to quickly wrap up our favorite landing spots and least favorite landing spots really quickly for you guys, so we can get into a bit more of an in-depth conversation about how this draft really unfolded throughout the weekend. So, Bobby, I just did a lot of talking, and Eric did a lot of talking. Would you like to kick us off here for maybe some of your favorite landing spots of players?
Yeah, I have a couple that I wanted to talk about, and I went with a little bit more of outside picks here. One that I wanted to mention, and he is still someone who's fairly low down the drafting boards. I just had them up recently, and I took a quick peek to see where this guy currently is. So currently an average ranking of 26th in the Consensus Dynasty rookie rankings. Skylar Bell is a player where I think the landing spot is actually a huge potential bonus to him. Because he was drafted as a wide receiver to Buffalo. And that means, guess who's throwing you the ball? Josh Allen, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there is an amount of competition there. He's going to have to fight his way for targets through some other players in that wide receiver room. But it's a wide receiver room where you can fight your way through to get some targets if you have the talent and the ability to. So, if things go well for him, he could certainly find his way into being a, fairly featured player. I know they spread the ball around there, and that's something that they have done. But you're still getting fed the ball by Josh Allen, right? So a player that I kind of have marked as one that maybe you're taking a flyer on in a later round of a rookie draft in Dynasty this year.
Okay. Yeah, I when I saw this, I didn't hate it. I was more curious where he's going to slot in because Buffalo has notoriously been this team of just having too many slot guys. And
Mhm.
Skylar Bell, I think, spent over 70% of his time in the slot at UConn. So I've heard some people that are smarter than I maybe suggest that he can be that outside wide receiver, that Z type, not your X, not your traditional X, but he could play outside and win outside.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much of his game you got a chance to take a look at, but he catches everything. He's a really good athlete, very like shifty, and certainly makes plays. He's very good yards after the catch. Going to be great in the screen game, which Buffalo loves to use.
Mhm.
I guess. Do you think he has a shot, maybe early on in the season, to be a part of like three receiver sets, or like find his way on the field for two receiver sets?
I think he could definitely make his way on for three receiver sets. And then, if he is the kind of guy who can grab the ball, and I haven't seen too much of his film, I will fully admit, but from what I've read about him, it seems like he's the kind of guy who can make those kinds of plays and come down with the ball. Definitely, if Josh Allen likes you and thinks that when he throws the ball to you, you're going to catch it, that will lead to more usage, right?
Yeah,
So I think there's a path for him to success here.
yeah,
Whether he's able to do it is a bigger question, a bigger gamble if you're going to take a pick on him. But it's a later round pick anyway, right? So that's kind of why I have this player as one that I highlighted.
100%. He was drafted in the fourth round, and he tested really well, and he actually measured bigger than a lot of people think that. I guess a lot bigger than people thought he would have measured out to be. So I like that call out. He could be a player that would be a nice find in that second or third round of your rookie drafts. No doubt about it. Anything else you like in terms of landing spots?
Yeah, the other one that kind of stood out to me, and we mentioned tight ends a little bit, but I'll start talking about one. Eli Stowers going to Philadelphia. This is not one where, I'm necessarily excited for it this year because Dallas Goedert is still there, and Dallas Goedert will be the guy for now. But that's only a for now, right? I believe Goddard's on a 1 year deal currently, and he is pushing towards that age cliff as well. So definitely a player to keep an eye on. I feel if we're moving towards more use of the tight end, and I think maybe that will be something we'll get into here a little bit with two tight end sets being something that's more and more common. But Philadelphia using the draft capital on a tight end right now tells me that they are going to be using this guy, and we've all seen the success that Goddard's had in that system. Maybe some of that in the future will be going Sour's way.
Second round pick. So that's not nothing. That's good investment in a position
Mhm.
where I think they. It seems like they really try to make a big effort to bring in players that can play in the middle of the field. AJ,
Mhm.
I mean, they were using AJ Brown as a exterior, slants and goes effectively, which is he's more than that. But they when you bring in a Makai Lemon and you bring in Eli Stowers who can run the seam, I think they're really trying to create an environment for Jalen Hurts to, like we already said, have no excuses when it comes to tossing the ball across the middle. So this guy tested incredibly athletically, and I like the fact that he could be that heir apparent to Dallas Goedert. I also like the idea that maybe he lines up outside, almost like that Colston Loveland type, where
Mhm.
you can put him out there at X, and what little DB is going to be able to cover this guy in a jump ball scenario? So
Ain't nobody going to be able to do that.
no, so I think the versatility there is going to be really nice for Philadelphia. I don't usually like giving Philadelphia too many flowers, but man, Harry Roseman, man, just knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Um, awesome, man. Anything else on the favorite landing side?
No, I'll pass it off to you. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, we already talked about Jadarian Price at length. I also kind of dipped into a bit of a deeper bag. I liked Antonio Williams, the receiver out of Clemson, going to Washington.
Mm.
Kind of that player that's going to complement Terry McLaurin really well, where Terry McLaurin's kind of your do-it-all wide receiver on the outside. Antonio Williams is predominantly a slot receiver, but big enough and tough enough that he was actually getting mixed in on some blocking schemes as well. So helps out the run game, but more importantly, really good zone feel. Um, I'm as a football coach and as a fantasy football manager, I'm starting to lean further away from some of these slot guys that are like slot dominant, small, and just kind of like win choice routes and that kind of thing. But I think he has more to his game than that. But it's also at the same time exactly what Washington needs. They need a reliable zone beater that can just sit or find the soft spots of the zone for what's his name? Oh my gosh, Jalen Daniels.
Daniel Daniels, yeah.
So for
Yeah.
him to just have somebody reliable, so it's not just like three guys defending Terry McLaurin and then good luck everybody else.
Yeah, no, I think the fit there is immaculate, and yeah, Jalen Daniels is also a quarterback that I think very highly of. I think again, just a world of potential there for Williams to take off. So that's a really good call out.
Thank you.
Love that.
Yeah, like a PPR, bit of a PPR machine. Like we
Yeah.
saw last year with Malik Washington out of Miami. I think he's better than Malik Washington, obviously, but for him to even have that kind of role, you're getting anywhere in the realm from 8 to 12 points consistently as your flex spot in a tight pinch or something to that effect, and maybe he gets a bit more involved in the offense.
It's always good to identify who on the team is the quarterback's safety blanket, right?
Yeah,
Who are they looking to throw the ball to in those kind of short yardage situations, need to dump the ball off situations? Like who's the guy that they trust and are
oh
going to
yeah,
just huck the ball in their direction, reliably 5 times a game just cuz, right? Because they trust them.
exactly.
So yeah, certainly could create that kind of the potential's there for that kind of environment.
Yeah, man. Um, for me, as selfishly, once again, I'm looking at the New England Patriots, who I think it did a decent job. And I will admit, I did bemoan it on the weekend when we were sitting around the D&D table, and I saw that they had taken Eli Raridan. I was really hoping they would take Oscar Delp, um, but that's okay. I have come around on Eli Raridan. This guy's huge. He's 6'7", almost. I think he's over 260 pounds. He's going to be the next up behind Hunter Henry, and it's I think the future is bright for this player. If he is as dominant as I think I've seen him in the pass game and the run game, I think he is a very good fit for this New England Patriots team that likes to use that versatile tight end. So get him on the line of scrimmage and let him down block on some defensive ends, and then also at the same time you can get him running on corner routes and down the field routes on top of being huge. So I do like that pick by New England from the tight end spot.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good pick too. I agree with that. Again, the importance of tight ends, as we've kind of
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, I shouldn't say excited, but it's certainly a conversation we should have when it comes to this draft, because it was a special year for the tight end group getting drafted where they did. Least favorite spots. Let's get into that, Bobby. And I mean, the ones that we've talked about, Jeremiah Love, but these other ones, I agree, are just a bit of a head shaker when it comes to what these teams were trying to accomplish in the draft, I think.
Can I light off? Can I go on my rant about what I think the dumbest pick in this draft was?
Handing the mic over to you.
Oh boy, Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson to the Rams. What are they doing? What the heck were they doing with that pick?
Man.
We talked about the Rams. What was it? Last week, 2 weeks ago, and we talked about how we loved the situation the team was in. We loved the way that the roster is constructed.
Didn't have a lot of needs.
Potential to make a real big push. Push the chips in the middle. Go for it this year. They've got that kind of team. And what do they do with pick number 13 in the draft? Go for a quarterback of the future? Question mark.
It's
and I mean, okay, you're gonna do that. You're gonna go for a quarterback of the future. At least pick a good one.
Yeah.
I don't want to bemoan Ty Simpson too much, but I have never liked him as a prospect, and I don't think that he has the kind of physical tools that you would want to have in a player that you're going to pick as quarterback of the future, right? If you're going to be picking a quarterback that's going to sit behind your veteran, established, professional Super Bowl caliber quarterback and have him learn from him for a couple of years, you want to have it be somebody who has the tools where that will develop into future Super Bowl caliber veteran long-standing quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't think Ty Simpson's that guy. So yeah. Can you imagine if they'd spent that pick on, well, look at the list of any of the other players available, but they could have used a wide receiver, Malik Lemon, for instance, right? Name any of the other players that would have been able to come in and help this team this year win a Super Bowl.
They could have future-proofed tackle. They could have future-proofed wide receiver. They could have future-proofed. I agree. I think at the end of the day, you're right. He did not profile as a player that should be going in the first round. And if you really like him, get him in the second round. Like, why do you feel the need to stir the, like, I'm not sure if you've followed all the drama that has resulted as a result of this pick.
Oh, some of it, yeah.
So, like, does Sean McVay actually like this pick? Does he not?
No.
Like, does apparently Sean McVay looked all pissed because he had probably just gotten off the phone with Matthew Stafford after trying to tell him, hey, this is still your team. We're not trying to do anything. We're not trying to replace you. And apparently Matthew Stafford gave him an earful. So I don't know what's true. I don't care. I think what I care about most is the fact that they probably reach on a quarterback that's not going to see the field for potentially 2 more seasons. And like, I just don't understand why you wouldn't cross that bridge later. And they have, I don't buy the argument that you can take a quarterback this high because it's a luxury pick. It was a pick you shouldn't have had, and it's insurance for your quarterback who's getting older. Like, I don't buy that either, because we just saw Matthew Stafford win MVP. Like, I'm sorry, if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. That happens in NFL football.
You're not replacing Matthew Stafford with pretty well anybody if he gets hurt. That's not something that you're doing. You gotta hope he doesn't get hurt.
So I agree.
Yeah. And maybe this is my own bias coming out as well, because I saw all of the drama that was created when the Packers took Jordan Love and Rodgers was still there. But we'll hope that they have the composure within the team and within Stafford to be professional about this and to continue to move on and continue to do their job. But this is the kind of thing that can absolutely sour the environment in the team as well, right? This could create a lot of tension within, that office and within that locker room, and potentially fuck it up, right?
Can certainly stir the pot, and I do like that. At least but when the Packers took Jordan Love, at least you could say, look at him. He's 6'4", he's 225 pounds, he's got a cannon for an arm. Yeah, he could use a little development. This is a guy that had less than 16 starts. He's not that big. He got hurt, probably because he's not that big, and just doesn't have the arm strength to justify. Like, I've heard some people compare him to like Brock Purdy. Like, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft in his year. Like,
exactly.
I mean,
you don't want your 13th overall pick to be compared to somebody who was the last bloody pick.
Oh my god,
that's not a good comparable.
Yeah, so anyway, I agree with you. I think a lot of people would have chosen this as the worst landing spot. At least, you know what? It's the worst pick. It's the best landing spot for Ty Simpson.
Yeah, from Ty Simpson's perspective, he could not have asked for any better treatment here right now.
Right.
Because there's certainly an environment where he gets picked up by some team that desperately needs a quarterback, and he's getting tossed to the wolves.
You're learning from Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. You're in a good team, a good franchise. Yeah, it's perfect for him. It's terrible for the entire team otherwise. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
All right, excellent. The only other one that I wanted to mention was back on the tight end front again, Sadiq to the Jets as well. We kind of touched on that a little bit already, but it's the Jets. They're so bad. Is this a piece of the solution? Yeah, I would absolutely say so. It certainly can help them to get better. But I was high on Sadiq as a prospect, and not a fan of seeing him go to the Jets, where, as we mentioned, crowded wide receiver situation, don't have a quarterback, and bad team.
First off, yes, I agree with you. When this pick came up on my TV when I was watching, I was like, "What? Really?" That is really disappointing because I think he's a good talent, but you have to have a plan for him. And I think that's the biggest knock when it comes to a pick like this. It is the environment, it is the crowded room of pass catchers. It it's the fact that they have Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator, who is one of the more antiquated offensive coordinators in the league. Surprised he got another job after he was fired from his previous two head coaching jobs mid-season
Yeah,
because he's not creative in the friggin' pass game. And it's, I think I don't want to, I'm not out here dealing out death knolls yet, but I just don't know how Kenyon Sadiq is going to fit into an offense like this. So that's my biggest detriment, I think, when it comes to this landing spot is all this potential, all this like talent in this player, just likely not going to be tapped into until they find the right offensive coordinator.
yeah. Which, if you're in a dynasty situation, this could be a long-term investment, and it could work out for you someday. But I can't see this working out in the near future.
Yeah. He was going kind of middle of the first round in rookie drafts. I would be shocked if that's still the case. Maybe back end of
Yeah,
the first.
back end of the first, and yeah, I would probably be looking at him as the kind of player that I would look to fade in that situation as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be even looking at him at that point in the draft. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
shocked if that's where he goes, but I think it makes more sense for him to even go into the second round, at least in this rookie
Yeah.
draft. Okay, awesome, man. I'll just quickly touch on. I mean, we already talked about Casey Concepcion and what happened in Cleveland. My running back choice for the least favorite landing spot was actually Jonah Coleman, who I've been going on and on and on about for the last couple episodes because I really was hoping he would find his way into maybe that second or third round, and he ends up going in the fourth to Denver, which is also a crowded running back room.
Mhm.
Not only does it submarine, I think his value, I think it submarines RJ Harvey's value, and maybe he is the one for one replacement for J.K. Dobbins at some point, but he's gonna have to wait because they just signed J.K. Dobbins to a pretty decent veteran contract to be the starting running
Yeah.
back there.
Yep. Draft capital is a thing that we've talked about a lot today, but also capital is the thing that you need to remember, right? If there's somebody that's getting paid to be there, they're going to get those touches.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at another three-headed monster in Denver, which good luck trying to figure out what Sean Payton wants to do on a week-to-week basis. I already mentioned how I wanted the Patriots to take Oscar Delp, so I'm just upset that he ended up in New Orleans because he's going to be tucked in behind Juwan Johnson there for at least this season. But he was the other tight end at Georgia where when Brock Bowers was there, so he like Brock Bowers got to do all the fun stuff, but Oscar Delp had to do all the blocking. So he got really good at it. Like he's not overwhelmingly big in size, but he kicks ass in the run game. And then he developed after Brock Bowers left into this really fun pass catching tight end. And
Mhm.
some of his highlights are really fun to watch. I'd recommend checking those out. He's very athletic, tested incredibly well, and it's just going to be a shame to see him potentially not even get a an opportunity this season, maybe even next season. Like I think with Kellen Moore, I think he really depends on his wide receivers and his run game. I don't think he leans into the tight end nearly as much as other offensive coordinators.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
That, when you think so highly of a prospect and you got so excited by the tape, and then yeah,
not
ends up
wasn't
with it like
wasn't meant to be.
that. Hmm.
Okay, so let's just power ahead here, Bobby. Let's get into some of these NFL. So we just talked about all these players. We just talked about all these landing spots and whether it's good or bad or otherwise. Let's start talking about the overarching themes of this draft, where the NFL is heading, and maybe what we can kind of suss out of it in terms of what the general managers and coaches are doing with these picks. And let's start with the wide receiver group, which I mean, I think I heard the stat that this was the most wide receivers taken since 2014 or some long lost date, but this was touted as a deep class, not necessarily a very overwhelmingly good class, and I think that kind of came to the forefront in this draft. So, of the 17 wide receivers drafted on day 1 and 2, which is first round, second round, third round, were there any surprises that kind of jumped out to you?
Um, in terms of surprises, I'm just going down my list here. Um, a lot of teams, yeah. I going into this draft. Let's back it up a little bit here. Um, I was high on the defensive quality of this draft. I thought it was a good draft if you're looking to fill defensive holes on your team. Um, but yeah, like I'm going to go with Concepcion actually here, just as someone to kind of talk about, because that was the pick where I kind of went, okay, we are going in on wide receivers here in this draft, and people are going to be taking them with high capital because the first four, I expected the first four to go in the first round and be kind of roughly in that amount of capital. But when we started seeing dominoes falling, Conception and then Cooper, that was two more in the first round than I thought were going to go in the first round. If I'm making sense here with the way I'm laying this
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
So yeah, what that tells me, generally speaking, is that teams are valuing having depth in that wide receiver room, and not relying on one guy, two guys to be the option. They want that higher amount of depth, and they're maybe reaching a little bit for some of these guys in order to try and add more arrows in the quiver, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
So, I yes. So I think the interesting part here is spending the first round picks on the actual difference making wide receivers, right? The ones that didn't crack that top first round, they all had something that you could probably point at as like a not a flaw, but like maybe a bit of a wart on their game. Casey Concepcion, I think we've talked about this. Some people had him as the number 2 receiver in this class, and you watch the guy play. He plays bigger than he is. He's probably the best separator in the class. He's incredibly fast. Like his get off is amazing, and I guess I'm surprised that he slipped as much as he did to a point where Cleveland, with their second pick in the first round, was able to take him. That would be the surprise. I thought he would have been, more touted and more highly sought after, but
Mm-hmm.
the big three go, and then he's the fourth one. Was he the fourth one to
Yeah.
go? Yeah.
Okay. So I just pulled up some stats to back up what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Um, the historical average of wide receivers in the first round from 2011 to 2022 was three a year.
Okay.
And we had 6 taken in the first round this year. So yeah, the Conception, just in terms of his ability, yeah, probably could have been into that top 4, of course. But like the fact that there was 6 wide receivers taken in the first round, yeah, that's kind of something else, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So for my biggest surprises, I had Dejon Stribling out of Ole Miss going to San Francisco as the first pick in the second round, when I think a lot of people had him down in like the mid 100s as a consensus pick. So San Francisco beating to their own drum here. It seems that they are way higher on this player, and I will defend them somewhat because he is over 6 feet tall. He's over 205 pounds. He ran in the 4.3s, and he had a really strong end of the season into the playoffs where you finally saw those athletic talents starting to emerge. He went over 100 yards, I think, in his last three times out of his last 4 games, something to that effect. Like he really did start to emerge. So I kind of see him as a spiritual successor to Jawan Jennings or Mike Evans when Mike Evans decides to move on or stay or whatever the case may be. The only thing I will add on to this, though, is that San Francisco tends to not do very well after their first round of drafting. They haven't done very well in their skill groups in day 2 and day 3. So a bit of a cautionary tale. I really like the player when I watched him, and I guess it's a vote of confidence that he ends up going here. But I'm also extremely wary of the fact that it could very easily not happen this year. It could not happen at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And the other player that I had here was Caleb Douglas, who I think was the 257th consensusly ranked player going to Miami in the second round, which
escapes being Mr. Irrelevant.
yeah. So I do not understand it with all these other receiver options that were available for him to go that high. Somebody is really feeling themselves and smelling their own farts because it's such a position of need. I don't know why you would go so far away from the consensus board to go and get a player where you, even if you like him, you can take him later. Like
Well,
he's in no danger of going
he's gonna
anywhere.
be there later on. Yeah, exactly.
But they totally redeemed themselves by taking Chris Bell, I think in the back end of the third round actually. So I totally foresee Chris Bell, maybe not this year with the ACL recovery still going on, but potentially into year 2. Watch Chris Bell become something because he's the closest thing. Like I've said, he's the closest thing we've had to an AJ Brown type since AJ Brown.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye on that as Miami continues their rebuild.
Yeah. Well, and the
Um,
opportunity is certainly there for a wide receiver to emerge because that is not a crowded room.
yes. So the other thing here, when it comes to running backs, only 2 were taken in the first 2 rounds, which means Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price were the only 2 taken in round 1 or round 2. And round 2 is
Apparently, you have to play for Notre Dame to be taken in the first 2 rounds.
the second round is usually where you see some of these better running backs go. But the next one that goes is, I think his name's Kalon Black, and he goes in the third round. And then we don't see another one go until Jonah Coleman and Mike Washington in the fourth, Emmett Johnson, who a lot of people were high on, in the fifth. Just like I think it's just this draft that the love for running back kind of slid like it did, because historically and the way that the game is trending, if you're going to lean into the running game, I imagine you need to have running backs.
Yeah, plural, more than one, right? You
Yeah,
want that committee there. Yeah, it's an interesting. I think it just speaks to the draft class more than anything. It
yeah,
just was not a group that these teams were high on, and whether that will be proven to be correct or not in hindsight, we'll find out. But yeah, really, really interesting. And I imagine this is probably going to be a case where in a couple of years, if we go back and do a revisit on this year's draft, there'll be some glaring instances where people were missed.
yeah. It feels like this draft, more than any other one I can think of recently, is really a draft where you were almost drafting for depth, which I think we can kind of talk about here as we move into the next category of tight ends. The premium for a tight end is on the way up
Yeah.
because the the very first pick that the Jaguars make is, oh my gosh, what's his name? Give me a moment here. Something Borkshire. Second
I,
round
I
Jaguars.
need to find my second round here.
Nate Borkshire out of Texas A&M, who is a 25-year-old rookie now, who had I think just around 20 catches last year, and is clearly going to be a blocking tight end for them. 6'4", 245. Did a very good job in that aspect of his game, but they had Brenton Strange there, so I guess they're just adding to the tight end group, and with the typical Y tight end being the thing that people are going after. So, like, let me see here. There were 8 tight ends taken on day 1 and 2, which is the first 3 rounds of the draft. I think that's very close to an all-time high. And a lot of these guys aren't known for their pass catching. Sam Roush is a block first tight end. Oscar Delp was a block first tight end. All these guys are like, they are looking for these Y tight ends that can put their hand in the dirt and really get involved in the run game.
Yep, absolutely. The game's just going that way. You need that. It's an extra lineman, right? And that's, we all know the value of having a strong line. If you're going to be having a tight end on the line and using him as such, then yeah, it's a big need. So it makes sense that we're seeing this premium being taken there.
Sean McVay drafted, wait for it, another tight end on day 2. Where are they? Yeah. Oh no, that's not it. Here we go. Yeah, the LA Rams took Max Clare in the second round after they just took a second round tight end last year in Terrence Ferguson. So Max Clare out of Ohio State, they're blocking tight end, and Sean McVay was quoted saying, "Yeah, we want to run a lot more 13 personnel, and if we're going to do that, you need at least 5 to 6 tight ends on your roster." So, I mean, nobody does it more than them, and he really leaned in again, and the Rams are making it very obvious what they're going to plan to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they've had success, and they'll continue having success, I'm sure.
Yeah,
It does make it interesting in terms of looking at the tight end position and where your value from that position is going to come from in fantasy perspective, because it's kind of created almost it always has been a dual position. But you have your very much pass catching tight ends, and then you're very much not pass catching tight ends. And it's kind of interesting that they both exist in the same slot in fantasy world, right? Because we
yeah,
don't care about linemen in terms of fantasy football production, but we do care about catching the ball and
yeah.
taking it down the field.
A thought that I had today was, I mean, the all-time greats like the Rob Gronkowskis were dynamic in the pass game, but then also kicked your ass in the run game. And I think for a long time people were trying to find that. They wanted the guy that could do it all. And it does
Yeah,
seem like more and more they're getting fragmented away. Like you have
yeah,
your move tight ends, the pass catchers, and you have your ass kickers. And
yeah.
it's almost like the more easily you can define yourself between those two groups, that is where teams can really feel confident about what you can do, because these middling guys, the guys that try to do it all, are never going to. I shouldn't say never. Another Rob Gronkowski could emerge next year. Who
Yeah.
knows? But I think if you have your very defined role, like, clear, that helps teams draft you.
You just have to be such a physical freak to be able to do it all, right? And you'd love to have the players that can, but yeah, they're just so rare. They come around. That is where you can use the word generational, like we said earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the fragmented approach, and having these different roles is what we're seeing, and probably what we're going to continue to see more of.
Yeah, the
The
specificity.
tool set that you need is just so different, right? The ability to move down the field and get up and catch a ball versus the ability to block a massive human coming at you. Those are different things, right?
They are very different things. I can attest. Okay, man. You know what? We already talked about all of our crowded situations, so I think that's a good point for us to wrap up here. Anything else you wanted to quickly chat on, or should we get out of here?
No, I think it's a good note to get out of here on, but that was a really great discussion of the draft. That was fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And now we have another couple months to deliberate about it all over again and
Yep.
see if we can't get going into our fantasy football season. Drafts are going to be starting to happen for everybody. So leave your comments or questions if you have any when it comes to this or that players, and we'll be happy to help out. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us this evening, taking part in our, I mean, it's evening for us. Whenever you listen to this, I hope you enjoy. And we'll be back next week with another episode as we continue to get that much closer to fantasy football season and the NFL kickoff. That's going to do it for us, folks. Have a great. Never mind. I'm tired.
Please like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, please. Please. Cheers.